Since the dawn of organized education, there's been a battle between educators as to whether more value should be placed in our schools on theoretical knowledge or on the practical skills necessary for success in the current society. At no time has this topic been more debated than today when our evolving education system is emphasizing Common Core and 21st century skills that are meant to better prepare our youth for their futures in a technology-rich, global, and fast-paced new reality. As we try to escape the factory model school systems and standardized testing overload of the last century, what are the topics, lessons, and skills that are no longer valuable to the students of the 21st century, and can we let them go? These are the questions that the Sabertooth curriculum by J. Abner Pettewell satirically addresses with just enough levity to avoid ruffling too many academic feathers along the way. The Sabertooth curriculum is an educational parable that was published in 1939. It acts as a mirror that can help us to analyze our education system and identify its current weaknesses. The story is told as a series of 5 lectures by Dr. Pettewell, who is a professor in the history of education. He runs into an old student while visiting a bar in Tijuana and proceeds to offer his student a 5-day course on Paleolithic education. His lectures are a thinly veiled metaphor for the obstacles faced by modern education. The most famous of the 5 lectures is the one entitled The Sabertooth Curriculum. I want to share with you a brief glimpse into the past to truly understand the importance of this particular lecture. So we'll travel back in time to meet the innovative man who started it all. A man named Newfist, who was a thinker in the Paleolithic era. His interest in organized education was sparked while watching some of the community's children playing idly with sticks and rocks. He thought they seemed to have no purpose in their play beyond immediate pleasure. Newfist then began to think, if I could only get these children to do the things that will give more and better food, shelter, clothing, and security, I would be helping this tribe to have a better life. Newfist thought about what learning and skills would best serve the needs of those children and their society. He came up with the 3 subjects of fish grabbing to provide food, saber-toothed tiger scaring to provide the community protection, and of course, woolly horse clubbing to provide materials for clothing and additional food. The society began to systematically educate their children in these important skills, and thus the tribe prospered and was happy in the possession of adequate meat, skins, and security for a few generations. Then came the next ice age, and with it major changes to the needs of the Paleolithic people. The saber-toothed tigers disappeared, as did the woolly horses. The rivers ran with mud, making fish grabbing impossible. Bears became a threat to the society, and fast-running antelope moved into the region. These changes required the thinkers to find new ways to feed and protect their communities. The adults began the practice of making nets to catch fish in the muddy rivers and setting snares to catch the fast-running antelope. They developed bear pits to protect their homes from the new predators. The thinkers then thought, these new activities of net making, snare setting, and pit digging are indispensable to modern society. Why can't they be taught in school? But the conservatives of academia said, no, that wouldn't be education, because it would be mere training. We can't add these fads and frills. The essence of true education is timelessness. It is something that endures through changing conditions, like a solid rock standing squarely and firmly in the middle of a raging torrent. Now, I don't want to give away any more of the story, but I bet my fellow educators can see where the story is headed and how relevant it is to the problems we face in education today. The primary lessons, or themes, addressed in the lectures of Dr. Pettewell include, first, that many schools are teaching an outdated set of skills and knowledge to students. Second, those trying to modernize or overhaul our education system meet constant resistance in their efforts. Third, the importance of hands-on learning in the classroom. The book also addresses the idea that colleges and universities dictate or strongly influence school curriculum and standards with extensive prerequisites and expectations, and also that teacher training often focuses more on theoretical theory versus classroom skills and practical experience. A final theme addressed is that when students learn outdated skills and knowledge in school, they can't find meaningful work upon graduation and are not prepared to be contributing members of society. So how does this connect to the ideas of curriculum design that we are focusing on in this course? Well, backwards design is modeled in the Sabertooth curriculum. Prior to determining any content or subjects, Newfist first identified what a better society would look like and what skills might be necessary to reach that goal. This is at the heart of backwards design, where teachers must first identify the specific learning sought and big ideas before they ever begin to design assessments or learning activities. There is also emphasis placed on the ideas and ideals of constructivism during the narrative. Pettawell presents this idea when discussing a group of observers who were critical of the current education system and in favor of a learner-focused approach. They argued to let the child grow naturally into his learning activities and let all his purposes and procedures be self-impelled. Without teacher interference or domination, let him always decide what he wants to do, plan what he has purposed, carry out what he has planned, and judge the worth of what he has done. In this passage, the idea of the individual helping to create their own learning experiences and understanding is present, as is the idea that self-reflection by the learner is a key part of the learning process. Another key quote that builds on this idea is, "We must teach them how to think, not what to think." This book, written in 1939 about an education system in the Paleolithic times, also presents great support for the 21st century skills that educators are trying to emphasize in progressive classrooms. Critical thinking and problem-solving skills are demonstrated to be timeless in their value, and of course, the idea that we must prepare our students for the future by encouraging them to practice those skills, which will be of the most value to them after graduation, is another connection to the 21st century educational goals. While not from the book itself, the following quote about 21st century learning could easily be used to summarize a key theme of the Saber-Tooth curriculum. As society changes, the skills necessary to negotiate the complexities of life also change. Finally, constructionism, which is closely linked to the facet of application and is part of the behavioral domain, is a recurring educational focus in the Saber-Tooth curriculum. In constructionism, the learning happens through physical doing. The progressive schools in the story are actually considered radical for suggesting that students should actually practice the physical skills they're learning in school. If they're learning to fish grab, shouldn't they actually grab a fish? This is where one of my favorite quotes from the book fits, which is that the students are living what they learn and learning what they live. The learning has meaning and is relevant to their everyday life and to their futures. So why do I think you as an education professional should not only read this book, but also revisit it throughout your career? Because it comically illustrates why it is imperative for our curriculum to respond to the emerging needs of our modern society rather than dwell on the skills and knowledge that were required for success in the past. It is a lesson every teacher should take to heart because our own learning can't end when we receive our degree, or we too will be teaching fish grabbing to students living in a desert. Happy reading!